Hi, everybody. We are live. This is Patrick Heron, self alignment coach. Welcome to a new episode of Success Made to Last. Today's episode is called The Slow and Steady Path to Success. Join the 99%. And this is a topic that I'm very passionate about because I think it plays such a big role. This idea of the 99% versus the 1%. The idea that success is actually about a long steady process that helps you get ahead in life instead of some like heroic situation where you just put a ton of work, you make a lot of sacrifices, you miss sleeping hours, you work nonstop, and you try attempt to do something extraordinary, something that will bring massive results in a short amount of time. And today I want to introduce you to this subject by sharing a little bit more about who I am. I think if you've seen me before, but more importantly, what are the circumstances in my life that make me not part of the 1%. So before we get started, I want to clarify. So the 1%, the top 1% is it's yes, the most influence um, influ it's the most influent people, it's the richest people, it's those who are in positions in power, those who have businesses or run large organizations, who have people who they who they consider their subordinates, who they are their employees, who is their assistants, who have investors, who have suppliers, partners. But it's also there's another 1% that is looks a lot smaller. It doesn't get as much press, which is the people who try to start and grow an online business. It turns out these people are usually not as popular, not so widely known, but what makes them part of the top 1% is that they've started a business online from scratch. So, which is a major accomplishment. I will never say that is not fair or that they don't deserve the success that they realized. This is almost like a small new class, social class, which is a few millions, not billions, not 100 million, just some few million people who have done this, who have accomplished this, started an online business from scratch and take it to $1 million and beyond. And these people, they follow a certain mindset, a certain framework, which, just to summarize it, to compress all the possible authors and philosophies together, I like to call it the top 1% mindset. So that basically means that they believe that it is their destiny to be really successful. They believe that by following the right strategies and working really hard, relentlessly, by being willing to accept lots of rejections, they will get to the top. And if they don't get to the top, they are going to put the blame on themselves. They are going to take full responsibility of everything that's going on, even if it's not their fault at all, or even if it's circumstances they don't control. So you see where I'm going with that last part. This is an issue as well, because there is a difference between being at the top 1% and thinking like the top 1%. For some reason, there is a misbelief that knowledge leads to results. And I'm not here to throw in the nuance of you have to take action on the knowledge. No, that's not what I'll talk about. It's almost like people think success in reverse. They look at someone really successful and they say they must know something we don't know. It must be because they're really talented. It must be because they know so much more than I do. And oftentimes that is not the case. And that applies to both the top 1%, who is the people who more or less own this world, and it also applies to these like small millionaires who started an online business from scratch. So we're clear. So knowledge, being successful doesn't mean you had prior knowledge. Not always. And then what happens with the 99%? So that's what I wanted to talk about. So the 99% is the people uh, who struggle a lot. So they struggle financially. they struggle because they are not at the level of success that they want to be, and but they really apply themselves. So this is another like smaller portion of the population that they don't believe they can't change anything. Like there's a lot of people in the world who do, but they do believe they can change everything, but it just doesn't happen for them. And when you get to that point, it's like really, really frustrating because you tell yourself, you work on yourself, you tell yourself you can have it all, and then things just don't turn out that way. So I want to share a little bit now that we got clear what it is, the 1% and the 99%. I want to share some of the stuff that I believe makes me part of the 99%. As usual, I have the tendency to never, you know, follow into a single category. So for the most part, I'm always some sort of hybrid between categories, but that's for another day. Let's say about let's say we have some disadvantages that they are real. It's not like they are excuses. For example, I have a full-time job. I want to start and grow a successful online business, but I also have a full-time job. So that full-time job demands a lot of hours, a lot of thinking time that I don't dedicate to my business, and I have responsibilities. I have people to take care of, um, processes. You know what a job is, right? And that is a disadvantage in a lot of ways because I don't have the same amount of time available as other people do to, invest in my online business. In my case, it's a coaching business. So other disadvantages is that I am taking care of a family. So that doesn't mean that having a family is a disadvantage. I'm just strictly talking about how your time and responsibilities are going to other places different from your business. So, and I am also sharing this because I know it's relatable. I know a lot of people have that. Doesn't mean you have a problem. It only means you have a certain set of circumstances. So if I doing things to take care of my family, well, I do some chores, I do some shopping, I do some cleaning, cooking, not really that much, but that is also time and attention that I don't dedicate to my business, which is normal because that's my whole point. I want to normalize the idea that we are not just a person, we are not just a career person, we are a whole human being. And we have all the things happening in our life. And it's not like we wish we didn't have them. We have to find a way to move ahead, to get ahead in life whilst not abandoning everything else, right? And which takes me to the next point, which is health. So if your life is completely out of balance, you won't be healthy, you won't have the energy that you need, and everything is that you do is going to feel a lot harder to do. And I'm talking about most people's lives. I mean, when I say 99%, I mean that almost literally, because we all have these things. So, but for some reason, the people who follow and preach in this top 1% mentality, it's almost like they're always implying that you have to sacrifice everything else. And some people do give statements such as, sacrifice everything today, sleep, balance, family, health, everything, just for a while until you are a millionaire. Because apparently there is a certain set of steps that take you from 0 to 1 million, which is a lie to me because everybody's path is different. But do you really want that? What do you want to suck all the joy out of your present life because that is supposed to take you to, the $1 million life? It's not worth it. It would be worth it if it worked, if the path was more predictable, it was more consistent across individuals, but it's just not. And you can have two people, both of them sacrificing everything, both of them being relentless about their career and their business, and one of them could get really far, and join the top 1% and make millions, and the other one could be working as hard and be as relentless and still not get to that level. It's not because it's luck or random, it's because everyone is different. And this is the kind of mentality that destroys so many people's chances of success, because you keep saying that it is within your control. You keep saying you can do it. You keep saying that it's your mindset or your ability to take action, but it's not. And what happens when you get to that point, and this is exactly my story, is that you keep blaming yourself. I, I am convinced I'm not a millionaire. I said I have a full time job. I am convinced that I have worked way harder than people who are already millionaires. I am 100% convinced. And that happens sometimes. It's not like I should, uh, take it out on them and be angry with them because they are there and I am not. But it's just the way it works, because there are no single formulas you just follow and take you to the top. With that said, if any of these resonates, drop me a comment. If you are the kind of person who has a busy life with work, with family, with responsibilities, if you deal with stress on a regular basis, which most people do, you know, drop me a comment because I am talking to you. This live stream is going to be divided into a few segments that I'm going to present in a second. The first one is what I call Patrick Talks. That will be a small talk from me where I am going to go deeper into this idea of the slow and steady path to realize your dreams. The second section is what I call journaling with Patrick. So I am going to introduce you to the one page game, and that is my own journal, which is going to get published sometime next year. And I will explain you why that is a fantastic tool for the 99% who I declare from this point forward, they can be successful as well without sacrificing everything. I will introduce you to my daily page. I have 6 prompts that I journal on every single day, night. And I hope you gain like some value from it. I would like us to engage in the process together, and you can just take those prompts and use them, apply them to your life every day. Then I am going to talk about in a different section, book reviews with Patrick. I will tell you about one of my favorite books in the self improvement world, which is Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. And I consider this to be one of the most powerful frameworks for the 99%. So when I look at BJ Fogg, he is a 99% expert, which means that his ideas, his concepts, his advice is applicable to everybody. It's meant to dispel the willpower myth and the discipline myths for normal people like you and I with a lot of responsibilities and certain challenges and maybe not as many opportunities can implement to get ahead. The last segment is AI experiments with Patrick. I am a huge fan of AI, and AI again is a huge advantage for the other 99%. It's our chance to fight for our dreams in a whole different way. So, without going through intense pain, this is what I want you to take away from this. We can move further and faster towards our goals. And on top of that, the specific experiment I want to share with you is that I built what's known as a custom GPT that is trained in my coaching model called the four-wall framework, which again is a framework specifically designed for the people who aspire to be more and do more, but they struggle. I will explain you further uh, how I started that experiment, what the end result is, and you can even gain access to this AI tool. So let's start with Patrick Talks. The world celebrates the crazy top 1%, those who sacrifice everything to accomplish extraordinary things. But what happens to the rest of us? We are left behind. But what we haven't learned yet is that the path to success is slower, it's not fast. And today I will reshape the success formula so it works for the people who can't afford to destroy the balance in their lives to pursue their dreams. With that said, I am going to share some stories where I'll show you how the top 1% mindset doesn't work, how damaging it is, and what you can do instead. What I have done instead, how I learned the things. So the first story is the moment where a couple of years ago I was doing Facebook marketing to grow my coaching business, and I took a course which was a coaching program that basically gave you a very polished Facebook marketing routine. I was posting every day. I was talking to people every day, sending messages, engaging in comments. Um, I was inviting people to do a Zoom call with me, so which eventually will lead to a sale. So basically, the routine seemed super solid. Like it looks like I was gaining attention. I was getting into conversations. I was booking a lot of Zoom calls. I was booking Zoom calls with potential clients, but most people were not buying. Some of them said no. Many of them said okay, but with some sort of like compromise about how and what they were going to pay. So I never made enough money, even though I was really applying myself. So I remember that I joined this course a couple of years ago. I was excited. Like for a while, I was becoming more and more skeptical about marketing, but this seemed like a really good idea. I had a lot of accountability, so whatever they told me I could do, I was doing it every day, 2 hours on social media, growing an audience, and getting into calls to sell my coaching program. And it turns out, just like I said, it wasn't working. Well, I think this is the only time, to be honest, where I saw myself working hard on a proven system. So I was given the system, I was following every piece of it, I was applying it successfully, by which I mean consistently, and results were coming in, but it wasn't going to where it had to go. And it was so draining, it was so tiring for me that at some point I just had to give it up. I was investing 2 hours a day, sometimes more, and the payoff was nothing. Like following this strategy, I made $6,000 in 2 years. That is completely ridiculous. That's so not worth it. On the other hand, I know there are people who have used the same system and they made at least six figures of revenue. So what usually happens, and it did happen to me at the time, is that I was blaming myself. I told myself it has to be me. Maybe I have to do more work than this. Maybe I am the one holding back because I should be making more offers and talk about my program a lot more. But that's it wasn't supposed to be like that. Is it supposed to be like that? Are you supposed to be dragging and suffering constantly for you to be successful? Well, my take today is that no, that's not the answer. I wish I had known better, but at the time, all I did was to quit doing that because it was too painful to keep going. So you see, that's a perfect example of how, first, there are no universal formulas. There is not a single strategy that can work for everybody. And second, willpower doesn't cut it. Willpower, no matter how strong it is not a guarantee for success. And in this case, we are defining success in a narrow sense, which is business and career. So instead of questioning the experts, I was telling myself that there was something I wasn't doing correctly or I wasn't working hard enough. Which takes me to my next story, which is an interesting one. A few years ago, that was after this Facebook marketing fiasco, I joined a high level mastermind. I did that actually prior to this Facebook marketing thing, but I remember a specific time which happened after in one of the meetings that I had with the mentor who was leading this mastermind. I had just discovered a new idea, a new, let's call it, niche for my coaching business, which was to work with entrepreneurs who started online courses but never finished them. So I felt like I resonated with that problem, that was starting to solve that myself, and I wanted to help others do the same. So I went to back to this mentor. He had let me down a few times by mostly disengaging with me altogether, and then I disengaged even more with him. But one time I said, you know what, I still have access to this thing. I'm going to show to a live session. So I remember getting into Zoom, waiting for my turn to ask my question. And then I said, look, I have this idea. What do you think? And I have your feedback. And then here's what he said. He said something in the lines of, if your focus is, whatever, helping more entrepreneurs finish their courses, why don't you build an AI who can do that? And then I was listening, like that sounded interesting. It sounded like a good business concept, but I quickly realized that wasn't my thing. And I told him at the time right away, I told him, look, that sounds like a great idea, but I want to do coaching. And then he replied, you can do coaching for free. Build the AI as a business and do coaching for free. And I said, what the hell is this? I didn't reply after that. I stayed sort of silent and I just simply said, okay, okay, and let the next person, ask their question. So after disconnecting, I was a little upset but confused. And I said, why is he saying this? And that was the time where instead of, just staying angry and confused, I said, the gurus are all, he is wrong. Like I was so certain that he was wrong. But in the internet marketing world, there is this like almost paternalist, system where you have to listen to the expert no matter what, just because they have a certain outcome that you don't. Like I think it's a very common idea these days. We used to think that experts were people who studied a lot, and we still do at some point, but now it's almost like they have to have done the thing. So which takes to, ridiculous assumptions like you can't teach space science if you haven't been to space. That's the way I see it now, because I am more confident in what I believe. So why are you not questioning the experts? That's my question for you. Why do you think they're always right just because they are more successful? What if they are experts of being successful in their own life and no one else's? Because that's the reality. Expert status doesn't equal to knowing all the answers. And trust me, if they were not so full of themselves, so arrogant, they would see that. They would be better experts, because they would be open to see there are so many scenarios that are different from their own. It's almost like they compare things as if they were equal. Oh, you know what? I was broke and now I'm rich. Everyone can do it. And then it's like they point fingers to everybody who's like middle class or who's not homeless, saying, look, like you are spoiled, you're not doing the work. They don't say it like that, but they mean it like that. So aside from the rant, the takeaway here is that they are not always right. And in fact, my follow-up insight after that is that they are more They are wrong more often than they are right. And this is what puts people who get to this point, the way I did, find themselves in at a crossroads. You have the path that looks certain, that looks like all the steps are laid out for you just to walk on it. And then you have the other path where you don't really know what's on the other side. It's almost like all you see is your feet, and at best, your next step. Everything else is a huge cloud of darkness. In darkness doesn't mean bad, it only means that you don't know what's there. But let me tell you, that is the right path. The right path is the one that you walk yourself. And once you do that, you will start to see more and more clarity in what's going on. The hardest part, though, is to give up that sense of certainty, that sense of control that these experts give you. You have to um, come to terms to the idea that they don't know, but you don't know either. And all you can do is walk the path in order to learn. So, what did I do after that? So, maybe emotionally speaking, I guess, and logically, I came across a different thing. So, here I have another story, which is a lot shorter, maybe not as painful as the last few. And that is the day I discovered compliance advertising. So, this is a fascinating, like, sub industry that I wish I had known earlier, because it turns out that most of the online marketing that you see on social media, those beautiful sales funnels and pages that you see everywhere, they are actually infringing the law in a lot of ways. So, more recently, I think this has been going on online in particular for the last maybe 5 years. And the compliance advertising, I mean, it's a trend that's going to continue growing. So, compliance advertising is suggesting that most direct response marketing, especially business courses and coaching, are infringing advertising laws. So there is an entity in the USA called the Free Trade Commission, or FTC, that is regulating this industry, that is starting to regulate this industry more closely. More, it's not so much as regulating, but watching, because it looks like they were not watching close enough, and they've been violating the rules for so many years. But now they're being watched. So what do I mean by that? There are certain things in the direct response marketing world, which is most of the online marketing today, that they are doing something called, it's not the only thing, but a really important one. They're doing something called claims. A claim, you know this term, is that they promise or suggest that you will get a specific result. And the worst industry you can be in for violating that rule, for the online education for business and marketing, is the worst industry you can be in this sense, because the gurus, the experts, are constantly making money claims. Money claims means I made $1 million. Money claims means my clients made $1 million. And then you have everything that's in between. You know, oh, this person joined and made their investment back in a week. Those wild success stories, which most people would say, well, but isn't that true? I mean, the skepticals are just going to say, you know what, everything can be faked. Screenshots, names of people, um, bank accounts, stripes, everything you can show that everything could be fake. That's the easy answer for the skeptical person. The skeptical person usually doesn't like to look at the facts. They just have a certain, like, stubborn idea that everything is fake, right? That's a skeptical. That's a skeptical person. But then you have all the other people who say, but aren't those cases real though? Like, I do believe that they are real. And yes, they are real. A lot of them are real. The bigger problem in the framework of compliance advertising, by the way, I learned compliance advertising from Anik Singal, He became an expert like very very quickly in this area, just because the Free Trade Commission basically sued him for everything he was doing. He learned all the frameworks from the top gurus of online marketing, and it turns out the FTC caught him doing all that, and they found so many violations that he paid a fortune to to not have their business shut down, or worse, go to jail. That in a sentence, that's his story, and that could happen to anyone. All right, so I got off track a little. the the problem with claims is that once a person reads that, they get the idea. This is done on purpose, by the way. They get the idea that everybody who gets into that program or who does the course is going to get wild results. It's going to be successful just because they put the money down. The gurus have all sorts of excuses to say that they are not claiming that, but the reality is that at the psychology level, that's what people are thinking, even if it's subconscious, when they buy. When they buy, and that's the problem, because and this is dishonest, because they know they are suggesting everybody's successful, and people buy with that expectation. And when that happens, you have a little problem called dishonesty. And now dishonesty has a legal name, has a legal context for it to be defined. So if you are dishonest in the legal sense, you will get in trouble. So, in short, I found out that most of the experts, if not maybe all of the experts in online marketing I learned from, were breaking the law. Nothing more, nothing less. And it gets worse, because if I continued doing marketing their way, I would get in trouble myself. And who is then held accountable? Nobody, just me. And I am saying this as a warning message to everyone who is a marketer or studying marketing, because if you don't know that they are non-compliant, you're going to make very some fatal mistakes in your business. If you put testimonials without the person's consent, you're going to get in trouble. If you say things like this is the best program in the world and you don't have evidence to provide it, you will get in trouble. All those marketing tricks, if you apply urgency and say there's only 20 spots left, and then you make 21 sales, you will get in trouble. All of that is dishonest, morally speaking, but now legally speaking as well. And this was a big shift for me, because this was more than a gut feeling. It was an entire system saying the gurus are wrong. This is what I needed. This is one of the key factors that gave me the courage to stop listening to them altogether. I had to. Before, it was my own suspicions. Before, it was my view against the top 1% mindset. But now they're telling me that it's lawful or unlawful. I didn't do it. I didn't choose this out of fear. It was just a confirmation for me. So my next step was to. There was more. My next story actually is a little shorter, but I think it's relevant. I met with my friend. I have a friend and mentor who we're not working together anymore, but he is a brilliant copywriter and marketer. And I remember that once I gave up on the gurus, and he showed me a different way of seeing success, a way that is more aligned, that is more brave, that is most importantly, authentic. So he was doing, once he made that shift for himself, he was highly successful. He started making 6-figure deals, 7 figures per year. He was doing fantastic. And when we found out that throughout our journeys we came to the same conclusions, about the experts and and being authentic and not copying anybody, we realized that yeah, we were on the same page. And I also started seeing some of me in him. I thought I wanted to be like him actually. He was brilliant. He has a huge heart, and we have so much in common. And he was highly successful in business in his career. So what if I did something like what he's doing? He had a very different concept about the top 1%. He actually went as far as saying that he works with the zero point 0.1 top percent, which was something that in some ways I agreed with, but in some others I just couldn't accept. So my problem is that I care a lot about the regular people. In a lot of ways, I am a regular person. In a lot of ways, I am not. I am not normal. But at the same time, I say, well, you know what? I could help people from the top. And then the way that I will do it is that they help all the people who are under them, right? So my first one of my ideas was to actually fix the broken system of online courses and work with the experts directly. They would be my clients so that they can help all their clients, all the people who are below them, buying their courses and coaching programs be more successful. And then over time, I really tried that idea out for several months. And honestly, I was gaining some attention. I got into some conversations, but it wasn't working. Like I was posting content consistently. I started a lot of conversations. Some of these people, to be honest, they're too full of themselves. They just don't want to listen to someone saying, look, most of your clients are failing, because you and I know that. They refuse to admit it. They will continue saying in their funnels and paid and ads, they will continue saying that they have 4 people who did it, and that means you can do it too. They will keep saying that. Unless we experience some radical change in the industry, but they keep doing that. Oh, 5 people did it, everybody can. And then they never talk about all the people who fail. So after this experience, I felt like I was moving forward in terms of alignment instead of in terms of authenticity. But at the same time, it looks like I wasn't fully convinced. It's almost like I was trying to help people who I knew had a problem, but they didn't want to see it. And if they did want to see it, it would also take a lot of work and friction to let them admit that to me, because they could admit that to a person who is as rich as them or richer. Because remember, according to them, money equals knowledge. If you have a lot of money in the bank, you have a lot of knowledge in your head. It's a lie, but they believe that. Now, what was my next step? To walk away all over again. So what does this mean? This time I was by myself. In this last story, I was alone. I wasn't in the middle of a coaching program. I wasn't talking to a mentor in a mastermind. I wasn't talking to my best friend, or I wasn't learning anything new like compliance advertising. Got to a point where I was completely by myself. With me, it was me and my business. And I started to look at all the different things that I tried, and I said, it's still not working. Every shift I made in this journey brought me closer to higher alignment with my purpose, with my values, with my personality, with my lifetime objectives. Why is this not working? I remember I was looking at my wall. I have a wall with different things like affirmations. I have a poster like with money, to manifest that, with a lot of like $100 bills. And I also have my lifetime objectives. And when I was looking at it, something hit me. I read all of them, all of my goals. It's plenty of them. Maybe I have 30 goals in there, which are my lifetime objectives, which means that it's not something I intend to achieve in 3 months or 1 year. They are a lifetime objective. I just have to get there while I'm alive. So I was reading them again and I realized something that made me feel like I had been so blind. I realized that I wasn't working on my lifetime objectives. There were so many beautiful ideas in there. I want to speak in front of thousands. I want to write a best-selling book. I want to build courses that sell out in the first day. I want to be a father. I want to sing in front of people. I want to wake up next to the love of my life. Some of those are basically, they are experiences that don't need to lead to anything else. That they are perfect by themselves. Those are the types of experience that don't bring you some other results afterward. That they are fulfillment in words. So I looked at those goals and said, I am not working on any of that. Why? It looks like I had been telling myself this is a problem that was new in some way, but it was also really old. I was telling myself that I had to be successful in an area that wasn't what I wanted to do because that would allow me to do what I wanted to do. So let me explain that more clearly in my particular example. I thought I had to be successful in business in order to consider myself a personal development expert. I was so stuck in the top 1% idea. I was so stuck in the idea that people who are successful in their career and finances must have a better mindset than mine. It's a lie. I was so stuck in that idea that I told myself, I will do everything I can to be successful in business, and then I will become a personal development expert. And becoming a personal development expert was my lifetime goal. That's what I wanted to do, but I had to do it now. I couldn't wait for getting to a certain middle stage in order to do that. If I want to be a personal development expert, I have to start today. And that's what I did. Instead of telling people you can learn business like this, instead of following the gurus, I said, I am a personal development expert. Because that's what I've been wanting to do all along, which reminds me that one of my lifetime objectives is to bring personal development to mainstream education. If personal development can be turned into common sense, the world will transform dramatically. We are going to solve so many of the world problems just because people learn personal development at a young age. So, if I am not working on that today, I am not working on my lifetime objectives. That's when I realized I don't want to be a niche. I don't want to choose a narrow area of expertise for me to have no competition. I am just going to be me. And that's when things started to shift. That's when I started, not only I found my true purpose, refound my true purpose, but I also discovered that I was meant to create something really, really huge. And that is the success formula for the other 99%. If I could no longer embrace the hustle culture, the gurus culture, the follow a proven formula concept anymore, I had to create something different. So I am the person who will create the success formula for the other 99%. Formula that helps people, not regular people, achieve success without extreme sacrifices. It's the slow, steady path to realizing your dreams. And guess what? Everybody can do it. This is not the type of thing that where I am rewarding people who are killing themselves to get ahead. On the contrary, this is a framework that adapts to your particular circumstances and limitations. Instead of saying you don't have any limitations, you don't have any obstacles, Patrick says, let's work with them. We're going to get you ahead by designing strategies and habits around that life balance that you still need to keep. And that's how I developed all my frameworks. That core idea is what allowed me to create all my core personal development frameworks to move ahead. I will introduce you to some of them in another place. But now, this is what I ask from you. If you were paying attention, if you've suffered some of the things that I've suffered, like feeling like I was never good enough, that I wasn't disciplined enough, that the gurus were right and I was wrong, that there has to be something wrong with me, working really hard for no results. If you experienced any of those struggles, I want you to do this for me. Give up the hustle culture. Say out loud, the gurus are wrong. And last, there is a system that can work for me. That was Patrick Talks. Thank you for listening. If anything resonated with you, please drop a comment. I will be more than happy to read them. And please, I hope I created the shift within you, because that is my goal. Not everything is about information and implementation. Talks like this can create shifts in people. And if I created a shift in you, I have done my job right. But now that we know all the stuff that is hurting us, all the stuff that we need to stop doing, what do we do instead? Okay. So that's when I'm going to introduce you to the next section, which is journaling with Patrick. Today in journaling with Patrick, I am going to raise a problem. To start, setting and accomplishing goals makes us all feel great. But what if you didn't have to wait to feel great today? That's why I want to introduce you to the one-page game, a guided journal that makes every day feel like a win. Today, I want you to experience the 6 daily prompts that add reflection, value, and meaningful tracking to your life. With that said, let me open the template and I am going to share with you the 6 prompts. Or maybe I won't open the template and I will let you get started now because I remember them. The one-page game works like a game, by the way, where you fill out these 6 prompts every single day. And those prompts give you points. I call them experience points. And those experience points accumulate the more you do the work. And the great part is that this is a flexible system where if you don't feel like it, or you're too tired, or you forgot, you can always go back and do one prompt only. If you want, you can just do one prompt out of the 6. You don't even have to follow the right order, and you will still have made it. You still can feel like you're good enough. So, do you want to get started? Okay, so these are the 6 prompts from the one-page game. And as I go through them, I am going to give you 2 minutes for you to fill them out. Are you with me? Okay, so this is what I do every day. Prompt 1 is one thing I did well today. Now I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I like setting timers for this kind of stuff. So 2 minutes, go. What is one thing that you did well today? I want you to understand the phrasing of that prompt because they have been carefully crafted. One thing that you did well today could mean absolutely anything, big or small, something that you said at the right time, something that you didn't forget, some little good action, little act of kindness you did for someone else. Maybe resting, if you're the kind of person who works a lot, write it down. The difference between, I want to establish this difference, the difference between what I did well today versus what I accomplished today is that accomplishments often mean things that you haven't done. What I mean by that is if you are a business person and you made a sale, that's something worth celebrating, of course, but it's not something that exactly you did. If you if you do a launch and you open your website ready to receive people who are going to buy something, it's not really you who made the money. I mean, you receive the money afterward, but it's not like it's not an action that has a direct effect, right? Because you can open the cart and have no sales. That means that you did something, but you didn't get the result. So I just want you to get that distinction. It's a little philosophical, but you will understand it better when I move to prompt number 5. You will understand what I mean here. So this is the stuff that you did well, not something that you accomplished because of things that were happening around you at the same time. So with that said, um, get on writing. We only have 10 more seconds. Bye. Go. Great. I'm glad you got on writing. Now, I don't want to waste any time. Let's get to prompt number 2, and that is one thing that I learned today. So, in my view, 2 minutes, go. In my view, if you pay attention, every day holds a lesson, even if it's something little. It could be big stuff like you failed and you learned something about yourself, or it could be really small things like you genuinely discovering something that you had no idea existed before. Maybe you go online and you find an article and it says, reveals something new to you. For example, let's say that you discover that the immune system is connected to your gut. That's a real thing that is being discussed more often in Ayurveda than other places in Ayurveda medicine, but maybe that's something that you never knew about and you learned it. And if I just gave it away for you, you can write it down. So every day is an opportunity to learn. It's because of something that you discovered randomly like that, or something that you did, or something that other people did. Don't close your mind to possibilities, and this is important for the rest of for the entire one-page game practice, which is do not underestimate anything. Some things may seem meaningless at first, but they can lead to something else. So I'm not saying that even a grain of salt is holds value. I don't really mean that necessarily, but what I do mean is that a small thought could evolve into another thought or help you find a connection you wouldn't have seen otherwise. So mind open. That's it. There's 10 more seconds for you to write what you learned today, and then we can move to prompt number 3. All right, it's 2 minutes up. Prompt number 3 is one thing that I failed at today. What did you fail at today? 2 minutes. Maybe you forgot something. Maybe you had a bad reaction in a circumstance. Uh, maybe you promised yourself to do something and you didn't do it. It's very easy. Some people say if you haven't failed today at anything, it's because you haven't tried anything. So every day has a lesson for you to fail, and this can have so many benefits. I just want you to know. By the way, the timer already started in case you missed it. And now it's 1 minute and a half. Well, oftentimes, this is from personal experience. I fail at something one day, I write it down on my journal, and then I do it the next day. So it can be as simple as that. Just knowing that you don't want to write it again under failure the next day, and you do it. Some other times, it's a simple matter of knowing that that failure could mean that you need to pivot. It could mean that you have to do something differently. And what I find most helpful as well when you're writing down your failures is that you give yourself compassion. Instead of pretending that you never fail or being ashamed by that, write it in the journal. Journal is personal, it's private. Just write it in there. And the urge to be judgmental towards yourself or beating yourself up will start slowly to disappear, because now every time I fail at something, I actually feel happy that I get to write about it the same night. 15 seconds. And time is up. Prompt number 4 is, what is one thing that annoys me? 2 minutes, go. What are you annoyed by? Every day we find things that annoy us. People, behaviors, missing the bus, getting late to work happens to me all the time. um, Somebody, made a promise and didn't fulfill it. Um, Something you see on TV, something very unfair, very like heartbreaking news. The news obviously have a lot of that. So anything that annoys you, even something that is just broken. For example, you have something broken at your place, and you're procrastinating on fixing it or throwing it out. Anything that takes away your attention, anything that upsets you, is an annoyance that you can write down in the drawer. And I find this most helpful for a couple of reasons. Let's go to the most practical. The most practical reasons is that I often record what annoys me today, and over time I accumulate those annoyances. So I look back at sometimes to review my past pages. I said, all of these things annoy me, annoy me, annoy me, annoy me. And then I realized, this is the coolest part, some of those things I fixed. This is the crazy part. So the mere fact that you raise awareness to the things that bother you activate your mind to start fixing them. And sometimes they fixed themselves. Circumstances changed. Some other times I consciously fixed this thing, and because I wrote it down, it's more present in my life. And they're gone, right? And sometimes this is maybe a result that is the least expected. Some things just stop bothering you altogether. That's the beauty of personal growth. Some things that used to annoy you maybe won't anymore at some point. Time is up. That was your annoyances. You just have to write one. That's why it's called the one-page game. 6 prompts in one page, one thing for each prompt. The next one is number 5, and that is one thing that I am grateful for today. You may have heard that gratitude is a very powerful practice. It brings peace of mind to you. It helps you enjoy your day a lot more. It helps you feel happier about your present, your circumstances as they are, instead of as they should be. It helps you complain less. It helps you appreciate others more. And maybe sometime one day you write it in your journal, and another time you say that to the person. You know what? I am so grateful that you took me to lunch the other day. I am so grateful that you work with me in this company. I am so grateful that you are so funny. It can be people, it can be circumstances, it can be your home. My home is beautiful. It can be social media. social media has so many uh, negatives, but I am given the unique opportunity of talking to you here, and I am the only person setting the rules, basically. All social media does is to give me an audience, give me the technology to do this, to actually put my face and words in the internet, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. So write it down, and that alone will give you that little boost, that little um, moment that it makes you appreciate everything more. And trust me, if you want to be happy today, as I was saying earlier, this practice is a must. We have 15 more seconds. So, what is one thing that you are grateful for? I hope it doesn't seem like a lot of work because I do this every night and I miss days sometimes. But in a bad month, yeah, we probably do 23 days out of 30. So that's still a lot. I don't complain. Are you ready? Are you done? And if you can't come up with anything to be grateful for, you have a different type of problem. So please, please think hard, think small if it's necessary, but show gratitude. Prompt number 6 and last is one thing that you promise yourself to do. So this is the future now. Could be short term, like tomorrow, or it could be long term, like a week or a month later. Though usually don't make it too long because you're journaling daily, right? So by promising yourself to do something and writing it down, you're more likely to do it. It's a very simple thing. Sometimes you don't do it just because you forget. I happen to be a very forgetful person. That's why I have the dozen systems reminding me of everything. I use technology, I use handwriting, I use so many things to remember because life is complex. And I don't mean just my own, I mean modern life is complex. It's busy. There are too many people, too many responsibilities, too many things at home to take care of, at your business, at your whatever. And I don't have a problem with that. I know I can be very forgetful, but I accept myself the way I am. And I know that the systems that I have in place help me remember most things, most important things, I guess. So, what do you promise yourself to do? That will have some weight because you will put it on paper. It's going to stay in your journal, and you're more likely to do it. So try to do something small, something you can achieve the next day or within the week, and then boom, you're moving forward. 35 seconds left. What is one thing you promise yourself to do? Ten seconds to give yourself the one promise. Can be small, can be big, but it has to be short term ideally. Great. So that was the 6 prompts. That is my routine for journaling. The 6 daily prompts. I am going to repeat them one more time. You can take notes. If you haven't been doing all of them, or if you don't have them all in one place, let me repeat them for you. One, what I did well today. What is one thing I did well today? Two, what is one thing I learned today? Three, what is one thing that I failed at today? Four, what is one thing that annoys me? Five, what is one thing that I'm grateful for? And six, what is one thing that I promised myself to do? You'd be surprised. I mean, if these prompts seem a little too simple, you will be surprised, even shocked at how much progress you can attain by being consistent in this practice. If you want to learn more about the one page game, this is only one tool, the most important one, by the way. But drop me a comment in the chat telling me if you want to learn more about this. If you would like to turn the one page game into your own routine for personal growth, let me know. I will give you more tools. I will teach you how to use them, and you can also make every day feel like a win, just like I do. Beautiful. That was Journaling with Patrick. Now we are headed to our next section, which is book reviews with Patrick. So I want to tell you about a book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. So to me, this book is a framework for the other 99%. The whole book is a thesis of how you can install positive habits without relying on willpower and discipline. It is a guide built for the people who want a better life but struggle with consistency. It is for people who are done suffering and want to enjoy their journey to success. So, if you're with me, I would love to share some of the highlights of this book. I read this book all the way, and let me tell you that the the top benefit, one of the top benefits I got is that I see behavior in a completely different way. So I there is a formula for behavior that I want to share with you that's in the book that changed my perspective completely. Today, in my daily life, every time I see me doing something or wanting to do something, or even I look around how other people are doing stuff, this model comes to mind. It's like it became part of my mindset, it became part of my thought process, and that is the behavior formula. So, according to the book, the Tiny Habits book, behavior happens when you align motivation, ability, and prompt. So, let me repeat that. Behavior happens when motivation, ability, and prompt are aligned. Let's break this down a little further. So, behavior is the action that you want to do. Motivation is whether you want to do it or not, and how uh, motivated you are, right? Because motivation is not something that people just have, it's something that varies from task to task. I can be very motivated to do this live stream, which is the reason I prepare myself so much throughout the week, which is the reason I spend 15 minutes bringing my laptop to the living room area, setting up my microphone, my camera, my light, talking for over an hour. I mean, I am highly motivated, right? But I am not so motivated about doing chores, for example. They are too boring for me. They are tiring. I am not so motivated about going to work, about waking up before 6 a.m. to go to work. I'm not too motivated despite me doing it. Then you have ability. Ability means is a broad term in the Tiny Habits framework. Ability means how easy it is for you to do something. And easy could mean at the personal level, like if you are skilled to do that thing. For example, let's stick to social media topics. For me, recording a video live is not too hard to do at the skill level. I have a lot of experience speaking. I have a ton of ideas in my head. And like I said, I prepare an outline so I don't lose track of what I'm going to say. So my ability is really high at the skill level because I have a lot of ideas and a lot of speaking experience. But ability also means is contextual. For example, having all the equipment that I need increases my ability. So this is ability at the tools level. I have all the tools to do this. If I was trying to do this with bad lighting, honestly, I would feel really bad about doing it. I wouldn't be happy because the image wouldn't be so good. If I was to do it with bad sound, I also would be more discouraged to do it. So my ability shrinks because it becomes harder for me to do, and it becomes harder for me to do because the final product won't be as good. So that's compromising your ability. If I didn't have this space free, if my home was full of people, like 5 or 10 people, it would be too crowded for me to do it. That means my environment is going against me implementing this, against me executing the task. Ability is a broad term, and it really helps actually because that's what helps you play with different factors for you to make the task easy. So ability in a broad sense means your task is easy or hard to do. And last is the prompt. So the prompt is a really fun area to play with because that is the reminder for you to do something. For example, the most simple prompts, which are not the best, is alarms. So when I was covering the journaling section, I was using a timer. The timer, when the timer runs out, it starts ringing. And that ring is my prompt to say, I have to start talking again. So prompt is the reminder of the action, right? And in this case, ability and motivation are almost not in place because it's extremely easy to do. That means that once I get the prompt, I will instantly do the action because my ability required is almost none. And prompts are of different natures too. It's not all the only timers, which are so straightforward and simple to explain. Sometimes it's something that happens. For example, sequence of steps. If you have a sequence of steps, for example, when you are cooking, you know that at certain point that once you finish one step, you have to finish the other. And the prompts are highly, how can I say, sensorial. So for instance, if I take something out of the oven and I look at it and say, okay, this is undercooked, I notice by looking at it, I say it's undercooked. And then I just put it back in the oven, right? So my prompt is seeing the food undercooked, and then the actual action is to just put it back in the oven, right? So that's a visual prompt in this case. And sometimes they are that quickly. The subconscious works so fast that you don't have to think about it. You just see it and do it. And that's the beauty about behavior because the more when you do it intentionally, you can automate a lot of good habits. But what happens in most people's lives is that we have automated a lot of bad habits. So there you have it: behavior, motivation, ability, and prompt. Now, once you know that framework, which I just shared with you, that formula, you can apply it to everything. According to this book, which is heavily science tested, science backed, every behavior can be explained this way. And to me, that is one of the biggest takeaways. The second takeaway is what you do with that framework. There's a framework called behavior design, which is the real thing behind it all, that helps you take a behavior that you want to do that aligns with your lifetime objectives or your smaller objectives sometimes, and then you experiment, you play with different factors. You say, you look at your motivation, is it high or low? You look at your ability, is it high or low? Meaning, I want to do it badly or I don't want to do it so much. Ability, it's very easy to do, it's very hard to do, and everything in between. Prompt, is this a good prompt or it tends to just disrupt my life negatively? Is this a good prompt or it's always interrupting me at the wrong time? Is this a good prompt or it actually annoys me when it happens? So you play with those three factors, and the book covers that entire framework with lots and lots of strategies for you to design. And the coolest part is that it's what I call a workable framework. This book rejects the idea of willpower and discipline a lot. It says that behavior changes person to person and task to task. In other words, there is no such a thing as doing something every day for 21 days or 30 days or 66 days. He says a behavior that's well designed, suits your life, can be consistent from day one. It's not like you have to wait 30 days for your brain to do some rewiring or whatever. You can start the habit well designed and be super consistent from day one. The hard part though, which is also the fun part, is that you don't know how things will turn out, because your life is complex, and sometimes you'll have a certain idea of doing a habit like drinking water every day, and then you start to realize, oh, every time I'm trying to do it, I'm going to the kitchen, let's say at work, somebody interrupts me, and then I forget what I was doing to begin with. So I end up engaging in a conversation. I go back to my desk, and I didn't get any water. It doesn't get more real than that. Normal people have those problems. That's why this is a framework for the 99%. And what you do is that you design. Maybe you don't go to the kitchen anymore and you go somewhere else to get your water. Maybe you bring a bottle already full from your home and you keep it at your desk all the time, and you experiment. What I really love about this is that it really encourages creativity, and every time you fail, you design. Every time you fail at your habit, you re you address the behavior formula to see what's not working: motivation, ability, or prompt. And that's how I've been approaching most aspects of my life. And you will be so glad when you do the same thing, because you end up becoming more consistent. You end up enjoying your habits a lot more. And failure is no longer failure, and not because you're failing forward. This is not a motivational quote. This is a framework that tells you when something doesn't work, go back and design your behavior in a way that suits your life. This is like so Patrick. This is my frameworks. This is the philosophy, one of the philosophy pillars behind everything I built. It has to suit your life. So that's why we have to ditch this, business guru stuff, or even personal development gurus ideas, because they try to pretend that everything works for everybody. And if you only had more discipline, you'd be successful. It's not like that at all. And the last thing I want to say about tiny habits is the tiny factor. So you can't forget that. The tiny, making a habit tiny means that in the framework, remember, motivation, ability, prompt, means that you are shrinking the habit so much that it's very easy to do. So within the framework of behavior, you increase your ability significantly, but shrinking the habit to the smallest form. And it can go really wild. There are so many stories in the book that help you understand that concept perfectly. One of them is a person who wanted to get in the habit of running every morning. I think this is relatable for a lot of people. This person wanted to go out and run every morning. And it turns out it was very difficult for this person to do it. Or if they did it, they applied a lot of willpower to make it happen, but they couldn't sustain it. They will only do it for a few days. This is not laziness. This is how our brains work. So what this person did instead, she was working with a tiny habits coach, which is a thing that I would probably like to be myself. They have a certification program, which sounds really awesome. I didn't get to that yet, but between us, I would do a tiny habits certification program. That's a goal for another day. My point is, back to the story. The person was, so without the assistance of a tiny habits coach or the framework, she would get up, put on the running shoes, and then get out the door and then start running for God knows how long. I think this person gave herself 20 minutes a day. That's a classic way of setting your habit objectives. It wasn't working. So Tiny Habits comes in and says, you know what, start really, really small. this person started was got this piece of advice, which sounds pretty wild. And by wild, I mean almost ridiculous. She was told to put her running shoes on and call it a day. I hope I remember correctly if this person was a woman or not. I will have to go back to the book. Anyway, let's stick to the she. She put on her shoes and did nothing. Every day, she got up, put on her running shoes, and stopped. That was her new habit. Seriously. She would put on her shoes and do nothing. She did that for a few days and found it so easy that even without talking to the coach again, she started going out. And then she started running a little bit. And the coolest part about this is that often all it takes is gaining that momentum. And the momentum doesn't come from setting the biggest version of the goal, saying, okay, it's an all or nothing, go big or go home. You end up starting so small that then it becomes super easy to just do the next part. I hope that, you know, made some sort of mindset shift in you, because that is the reality of how habits work. And I've been doing these things. I haven't been so diligent about it. Like the story I just told you, I usually don't like to go tiny. But who knows? Maybe that's the thing that I'm supposed to do. What I've done though is to start small and grow big. Like there's a small story that I really like where I was trying to get myself to make short videos on a regular basis, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And I had a hard time getting started. And I said, what am I going to say? And what if the light or the sound are not good? Like I was noticing so many factors that were shrinking my ability to do it. And then one day I said, you know what? I really want to practice public speaking. So what I'm going to do is grab my phone and start recording my thoughts. I didn't have to worry about my hair. Yes, I care about my hair. I didn't have to worry about being shaved. I didn't have to worry about the sound, because maybe I wasn't even going to post that. All I had to do is the practice of public speaking. I'll grab my phone and record my thoughts. And it was working. 3 times a week, I was just sitting down. I actually made a little routine around it. It was during working hours. I would go to the office. When my break started, I would go to the office kitchen, grab myself a coffee, then walk all the way to the lunchroom. It sounds like a lot of the steps, but it was a routine that was becoming automatic for me. Then I sat down. I would drink coffee and talk to the phone, turn the recorder on, and talk to the phone for 3 minutes. Literally, I was doing that. And then I started to realize that it was becoming so easy and so enjoyable that I didn't have any problem being consistent with it. Then one day I had an insight. I had this idea. Now that I'm recording my thoughts consistently on my phone with my coffee, what if I started recording videos? So to me, the gap between recording my thoughts and recording myself on video was so short that that move seemed like a no-brainer for me. So I went from recording my thoughts to recording videos, and it worked. I was doing it almost effortlessly. I was doing it consistently. And that's how you take a habit, you make it tiny first, and then it grows. Tiny and consistent, and then grow it. That exact phenomenon is also described in Tiny Habits book. So this is my summary. The three big takeaways. The behavior framework. Behavior happens when motivation, ability, and prompt align. That is your new way of viewing habits. Number two is behavior design, how you can play with the three factors: ability, motivation, how it goes, how is high or low, ability, how you can raise it, and prompts, how you can set up these reminders for you to do it consistently without it bothering you so much. So the second takeaway is behavior design. Last takeaway is have tiny habits grow. So start really small, be consistent, and then let it grow. And if I was to give a ranking, a rating to this book, I would say it's 5 out of 5. These made it to my top three best self-help books. So Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, and that was book reviews with Patrick. I really appreciate you listened in today, and I look forward to reviewing another book. So if you have a book idea or if you gained a ton of value from that review, drop me comments. I'll be happy to read and respond to all of them. And with that said, I am gonna have to let you go. So this was Success Made to Last with Patrick. I know I promised you an AI segment, but I went way over the hour today. So I will be happy to share my AI experiments another time. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming, and I will see you next time.